Welcome in once again, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 116 of the Football Goons podcast. Whenever it is for you, wherever you are right now, we're thrilled to death to spend the next hour with you as we kick around some thoughts on the greatest game on earth. Special welcome to those of you joining us live on YouTube. Please feel free to chime in at any time with a question, comment, concern, and we will address that live on air because that's just how we roll. Guys, tonight we're going to get into a little what we're calling buy or sell game, where I'm going to pose some situations for the upcoming 2018 season to Rocco and South here. They're going to debate whether they buy or sell my statement. I tried to come up with some scenarios a little bit off the beaten path. I haven't gone as clearly as, every team's going to win a game, buy or sell. Of course, if you sold that last year, you'd have been the big winner with the Brownies coming in at 0-16. But who am I to discuss that? Sorry, guys. Sorry, Cleveland.
You just alienated a whole fan base.
Yeah, correct. Luckily, we still have our loyal listeners in like Zimbabwe or wherever we are in Africa right now. So
I'm huge in Zimbabwe.
You're huge everywhere.
So, anyways, I'm not going to go as direct as some easy ones, but I've also tried to avoid things that'll come up in our ridiculous, crazy predictions podcast, which will be coming up shortly. So. I've come up with 8 here. If organically 1 or 2 come up in between, I'm okay with kicking this around. We're going to keep this kind of loose, kind of heavy here with some of our discussion. You guys ready to buy, sell? Little stock market game here?
I'm ready.
Rocco's not as ready.
I guess I'm ready. I mean, competing against – I feel like I'm competing one-on-one against South, and I feel like that's going to go poorly for me.
Wow.
There's no competition. It's just I'm going to make you look bad. That's all.
Okay.
All right. And for loyal listeners that are used to the 4 of us, once again, Deal has skipped out on us this week. Basically, he's kind of out of the group at this point. I mean, you missed 2 in a row. I'm not sure you can recover from that one.
Rough. He's watching lizards do weird things or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Must be rough being on vacation 2 weeks in a row. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So without further ado, let's get into this. I've tried to mix in some individual stuff, some team stuff, some fantasy stuff. Try to keep everybody on their toes out here. So here's statement number 1. Going back to the 2009 draft, so essentially 10 drafts, there have been 16 different quarterbacks selected with top 10 picks. Every one of those 16, except for Jake Locker in 2011, and just last year with our boy Patty Ice, Patrick Mahomes, every one of those other 14 guys started at least 7 games as a rookie. I wanted to do half a season, but Jared Goff only did 7, and dang it, I wanted the numbers to be even more in my favor, so I went with 7 games here. So 7 games as a rookie, 14 out of the last 16 top 10 quarterbacks. This year, we had 4 quarterbacks selected in the top 10, which is unheard of. We usually don't get that many. So what I want you guys to buy or sell, all 4 of Baker Mayfield of the Browns, the Jets with Sam Darnold, the Bills with Josh Allen, and the Arizona Cardinals with Josh Rosen. All 4 of those guys will start a minimum of 7 games as rookies. Do you buy it or sell it?
South, I'll let you take the lead on this one. See where you go with it.
Well, I'm going to sell it. And this was tricky because you mentioned the 7 games, which is really what puts the wrinkle in it because that's not a lot of games. But I think Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold have the clearest paths to being the starting quarterback for their teams with talent, with the situation that they're in, with the direction that their teams are looking to go. So I think that they are almost a lock to both do that. Where I have an issue is Josh Allen, because by all accounts, he's got to fight off Nathan Peterman at this point. As funny as that sounds.
Yeah, did you hear what you just said there?
Out loud.
As funny as that sounds, the Bills have remained loyal to Peterman, even after the debacle last year. They've done nothing but talk about how great he's looked, which, again, it's the offseason. What else are you going to do? But I'm buying in a little bit on it based on some of the stuff that I have seen out there. So I think it's tougher for him to outright win it and, get those 7 games. And then Josh Rosen, I think the Cardinals are going to kind of slow play their hand with that one. You brought in Sam Bradford. I know this is a huge if, but if he's healthy, it's going to be hard for Josh Rosen to be more appealing to the Cardinals right now than a healthy Sam Bradford, as much as I'm the first one to knock him.
So I'm going to sell this as well for a couple of different reasons. One, I'm sold that Baker is going to be the opening day starter. I think they love him. I think they've loved him for a while, and they're on board with that. I feel about Sam versus Josh yet. I think Sam will be the starter at some point for the New York Jets. I don't know if it'll be at least 7 games. I don't really have a problem with Josh Allen because that's just really, really poor. That whole Buffalo, AJ McCarron, Nathan Peterman, Josh Allen project. I mean, it's disgusting is what it is. I don't even have a problem so much with the Josh Rosen, Sam Bradford argument because, one, Sam Bradford can't stay healthy. And two, accounts came out today that even Bradford is saying how impressed he is with Rosen and his mentality for the game and his ability to pick up the offense. So, like, if that's close, I think Rosen's going to win that job too. So really the problem I have is Sam Darnold in New York. I don't know that they're ready to turn it over to him and put him in a bad situation early on. And that would just be my only hesitation of saying, 7 games. Plus, I think the Buffalo situation could wind up being really ugly too. We might see all 3 of those guys start like 4 games this season. You know what I mean? Like 4 or 5 games. It's going to be ugly. So I'm selling it.
It's so funny to me that you're selling the Jets because that's a team that moved up into the top of the draft to get their guy. You would think that's all the more reason to, expect that he's going to win the job. I mean, I might be crazy with that, but
I think that's kind of what this all boils down to is, there are unique situations here because Sam Bradford, and even laugh if you want, Tyrod Taylor has been an efficient quarterback for several years. Now, he's not a championship quarterback, that's clear, but he's definitely efficient. Josh McCown, kind of the same thing. Teddy Bridgewater apparently looks incredible. These guys were drafted into teams that have established veterans there. And I think to address what you just said, how much of trading up for Sam Darnold was we're terrible at quarterback versus, listen, McCown's respectable. Teddy will see, but we don't have the guy of the future. And it's weird because do you guys see that these 4 go top 10 because the teams need quarterbacks today? Or do you see it as a situation like Philadelphia did with Carson Wentz when they had Sam Bradford on the roster already? And it's like, hey, we got to lock up a guy for our future. And until Teddy Bridgewater goes down, there was no intention for Carson Wentz to start a game. So, I mean, what do you guys see with these 4? Are they going to be starters or is it, listen, sit here and watch and learn? Is it Patrick Mahomes from last year? Probably more talented than Alex Smith, but why force the hand?
Listen, all 4 of these guys to me are situations of we have a veteran in place. We know that veteran is not the long-term answer, but we're not in necessarily a rush to get them on the field. So if they come out and they win the battle outright and they look clearly better, then yeah, we're going to start them. But right. If it's close, we're going to let them learn from the veteran, especially in a situation like New York. I mean, Josh McCown is a guy that other teams have already offered him quarterback coaching positions. That is a guy that you want in your locker room, not because he's the most talented quarterback of all time, but because mentally he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, so like to me, like unless Sam can go out and just beat him outright, flat out, better than him, more knowledgeable on the field, like they're not going to just throw Sam to the wolves. So that's why I have a problem with it. Not that I don't think that Sam is not the long-term answer for the next 10, 15 years, because I do.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree with what you guys are saying with how you have a guy who you can trust, almost like a security blanket in place, and you have these guys who are your more long-term plan. But the thing for me with Sam in New York, like you're going into the biggest media market with a team who has not won in quite a while now. There's a lot of pressure to make a move, to do something drastic, to start, going after that window that's closing for the Patriots. There's going to be a lot of noise, a lot of pressure to get him on the field. And I think that that's underrated how much that weighs into how quickly owners push for those kind of things to happen.
And my final point on this, what's funny, I don't know, funny is maybe the wrong word, but what's interesting about these 4 guys is the one with what I think is the clearest path to be the starter is Buffalo, is your least ready of the 4 to start in
Yeah.
Josh Allen. I mean, that was I think if any of the other 3 were in Buffalo, that's a slam dunk to me, day 1 starter. So you both sold. Last word on this topic. How many of the guys do you think do start 7 games, if not all 4?
2.
Do you have a 2 in mind?
Yeah. For me, it's Mayfield and Rosen. I think both of them get on the field for at least 7. I would not be surprised if Darnold does, but I'm not betting on it. And like I said, I'm sold that that's going to be like a 4, 6, 7 type of deal. You know what I mean? 4, 6, 6 type of deal where, all 3 of them are going to get starting time this year.
Right.
I think it's Mayfield and Darnold. Mayfield is going to bring just a different dimension to your offense. And I know that's kind of what you're looking at with Tyrod, but I just think ultimately you're going to find that he's able to do just a little bit more for you offensively. And I'm not worried about anything that I'm hearing, reading in New York. I think Darnold is still that blue chip prospect. He's going to come in and win that job.
All right, excellent. Let's move on to statement number 2 here, guys. We're going to talk about some teams. We have had in the NFL a team go from last place in their division one year to division champs the next year, 3 consecutive years. Now, this is largely due to that trend in the NFC East, believe it or not. It's been going on. And last year we had 2 teams, both the Jaguars and Eagles, went from last place to division champs. Buy or sell, this trend will continue that one of the Jets, Browns, Colts, or Broncos in the AFC, or the Giants, Bears, Buccaneers, and 49ers in the NFC will host a playoff game as division champions this year.
I'll go first this time. I know that we're on a little streak here of it happening every year, at least once. I'm going to sell it. I can't see it happen. I think the teams at the top of these divisions right now are just too good. I won't bet against the Patriots at this point. And honestly, it's kind of funny to say that because they might be the one team that has like the least holding them together at this point. You have Tom and Bill holding them together, and that's pretty much it. And Tom's 41 or 42. But the Steelers are still a much better team than the Browns. There's too many good teams in the AFC South for me to pick that. The AFC West, the same thing. And then the Eagles, Vikings, Saints, and Rams are all too good of teams right now for me to pick any one of the bottom team. I'm not saying that those 4 will win, but they're too good, and the teams below them are too good for me to see the bottom team jump all the way up to the top.
But don't you think that's something you can say every year? I mean, if we had this podcast every June, last year you'd have said, God, the Cowboys are too good, and
well, no, because we didn't. But
well, right. It's just one of those things where it's easy to have that recency bias where I just saw these teams be good and they all had good off seasons, so clearly they're going to win again.
I think the biggest thing for me is like usually we can see one team take a step backwards, and that might be the team you pick. You know what I mean? We haven't seen. I mean, this might be a stretch to say. You might agree or disagree, but I don't think we've seen any of the top teams in the individual divisions take that much of a step back where we could see them falling that far. You know what I mean? And
maybe the Chiefs if Mahomes is not ready.
Maybe the Chiefs, and honestly, the Chiefs for me is it's not that I see the Chiefs winning that division again. It's that the Chargers and the Raiders are both too much better than the Broncos for the Broncos to go from 4-1. It's not just a matter of the team losing the division. The 4th place team has to jump up to win it in this scenario. Right. And other years have passed where I've seen teams fall back where I can make that pick, but I can't.
All right. I'm pulling the cord because you've been wrong for long enough. I am buying on this topic. Okay, look, pure odds alone would say that it's likely, but here's specifically why I'm going to buy in. The biggest point is because of what Miles said. Every year at this time, we're talking about, man, I would just be shocked if the Falcons weren't right back there again this year. If Dallas won 12 games, they seem like they're on the upswing. Name basically any other team.
The Packers,
every year, the Packers.
The Seahawks.
And look, just the odds alone, there's going to be injuries that come upon teams. So like a team like the Packers, who are really so dependent on their offense. When they have a big offensive injury, you're in trouble. So yes, there are a few teams who are a lot more balanced right now, but ultimately there's going to be an injury. There's going to be a team that we're not expecting. There's going to be a team that drops off that we're not expecting. You look at, for the Jets to do it. The Pats have a chink in the armor now. Never before have you heard this much internal strife from within that organization. It was always Patriots way. You never hear a thing. Nothing leaks. The Steelers are basically a Big Ben injury away from that division pretty much being wide open at this point. The Colts, who knows what you have with Andrew Luck? If it's Andrew Luck pre-injury, that could be one of the best teams in the league. The Broncos still have a really good defense. So if Keenum plays like he did last year, they could be right back in it. I don't think it's as open in the NFC, but I would say, why not if the 49ers shock the world? They're building themselves toward that. And I get it. The Rams are like this super team right now. We all love what the Rams did last year. They retooled. It's going to be hard. The Bucks, probably not so much after this week.
And on top of that, with the Bucks, the three teams ahead of them, kind of going with what Rock said, were all playoff teams last year.
Right. But if you just catch like one shocker somewhere in the league, you could have a couple open doors here, and it happens every year, and we never see it coming.
Right. I do agree on the AFC part of things. The NFC, it's tough to see, and not just because the four teams Rock mentioned that won it last year were so good, but Seattle should rebound. Arizona should be okay. The Niners are kind of my team that could do it, but the NFC South is loaded, and the Bucks, I think, are going to rebound and still be clearly the fourth best team in that division. Right. I think the Bears are going to improve a lot, but Aaron Rodgers is coming back with a vengeance. The Lions are always in the wild card hunt at this point with Matthew Stafford. And then the NFC East, there's no reason to think Dallas isn't going to rebound as well with being the Super Bowl champ. So we'll see with the AFC. So we got one buy and one sell. South, I'm going to make you say, give me two that are most likely to do it.
The two that are most likely to do it. I will give you the Colts, just because you have that elite franchise quarterback. I know it's a big question mark with his health right now. I know they still have a lot of pieces to figure out there, but we've seen for years and years what difference an elite quarterback could make. And then this might be a shocker, and I don't want to give too much away, but I would go Jets with my second option there. I think that division is due. I think we're at just the right time for a changing of the guard there. I don't know that it would be permanent, but I wouldn't be shocked.
All right, cool. Jets Colts. You're a football Goons fan, aren't you?
It was strictly coincidental, believe it or not.
All right, let's move on to number 3, and let's get a little bit into fantasy football. We're all itching to do it, and I think our next few weeks are purely fantasy related, if I'm not mistaken. But I want to talk about something that makes my skin crawl, which is the 0 RB strategy. Really, really got hot the last 2 years or so, and it kind of seems to have come and gone a little bit with some huge public platforms. They're still preaching, though, zig one other zag, zig one other zag. So when your whole league is going running back round 1, take AB, and then on wrapping back around in round 2, you're looking at Odell or AJ Green or somebody like that. So it just, while it seems like running back is back in a big way, the doors are open for a team, if you choose to land 2 superstar receivers. So I'm not going to put you guys against the wall fully 0 RB, which we've talked in the past means completely ignoring it until like round 7 or 8. I'm just saying, buy or sell. It is possible to compete in 2018 by grabbing wide receivers with your first 2 picks and waiting on running back until the 3rd or later rounds. And before you get into this, I don't want to hear it's possible because this guy and this guy and this guy are going to get hurt. I mean, if everybody's team stays healthy, can you compete if you go receiver?
I'm not even going to give you a hypothetical. This is a sell, and it's a hard sell. You have to leave the first 2 rounds with at least 1 running back because of this simple fact. You can recover from the drop off at the wide receiver position in points from like a tier 1 guy to a tier 3 guy, the average drop off for the season in points is about 30 to 35 points. So you can cover that ground. You know what the average drop off from a tier 1 running back to a late tier 2 or tier 3 running back is? 70 to 75 points for the season. It's double the drop off. You just can't afford that. And I know like last year we had a couple guys who were extremely high production. Todd Gurley's numbers inflated that big time probably, but like you're still chasing those points at that position all the time.
Yep.
It's too hard to recover compared to the wide receiver. You could find a gem in the wide receivers way down. You very rarely do that with running back.
Yeah, I actually, just to piggyback on that, I did the legwork on the exact numbers from last year in a PPR to go from receivers, top 10 receivers to second 10 receivers. So wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2, it was 42.99 points on average last year. To go from RB1 to RB2 was 87.13.
So it's even bigger numbers than I had.
You're talking the Gurley to McCaffrey was top 10 running back. To go from that to Dion Lewis to McKinnon, 87-point different average.
That hurts.
So I'm going to say I'm selling I'm selling it, but I'm also going to buy that it's possible. You know what I mean? So I'm not ruling out that it's impossible, that you can't do it.
So you're buying.
What? Well,
so you're buying.
No, because I'm not like, okay, so I'm buying that it's possible, but not buying that it's probable. I'm not. Right. I wouldn't put my money on it. But and maybe it's my love, and I know both of your loves for the running back position this year. If any a year to do it, this would probably be the year to do it. And I'm not.
We said that last year.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying zero running back in the sense of like ignoring it for the first 5 or 6 rounds and transfer in the 7th. But like if you leave this draft and your first 2 picks are, let's say, AB and Odell or AB and Nook, okay, and then you spend your next 3 picks and you load up on, McKinnon, Nick Chubb, and Sony Michel, and you hit on both of those rookies, guess what? You're going to be right there in it. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Things would have to fall your way. So I'm not going into this fantasy season with the idea that this is the strategy I'm going to use, but I'm not saying that you can't make it work. if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying, but like,
I'm not betting on it. I'm not buying it. But
I get what you're saying.
Definitely a possibility.
But the chances of that happening are so slim. Like, but yes, why? You're saying yes, there is a chance that I cut open a watermelon and it's blue. There is a chance. It's not very likely, but there is a chance. Like, that's kind of what you're saying with that, because it's so rare that I've ever seen it really work. Like, ask your boy here in the middle how well that worked out for him last year. Yeah, we pounded the table for him.
I attempted this in our college league last year, and I left the first 2 rounds with Julio Jones and AJ Green, which didn't work out. But in theory, they should have been 2 of the top 5 receivers in fantasy last year. The issue, Rock, you said, but why? Your gut and the board have to fall perfectly. Yeah. And if you're okay, so I like the 3 names you mentioned. If you get McKinnon, Chubb, and Sony, great. The chances of both McKinnon in a new, well, not both, all 3 of McKinnon in a new situation working out perfectly and him fitting Kyle Shanahan like we think he will, but we don't know, and Nick Chubb taking over for Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson not stealing too many touchdowns through the air, and Sony Michel grabbing hold of a New England Patriots backfield that has been a question mark since Corey Dillon left. All of those things working out, in addition to neither Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham letting you down. I mean, I did the exact strategy last year. I had Julio, AJ, and then went 3 running backs. And my team was a disaster.
Okay. I understand your point there, except for the fact that, like, you have the hindsight of Julio and AJ letting you down, but if you took Michael Thomas and Antonio Brown instead of Julio and AJ, not that AB was available to you at that
No,
point. But what I'm saying is, if you went with that strategy and went Mike Thomas and AB, and then addressed running back after that, you would have been in great position.
Yeah,
So, like,
I think you're right. I think you're right, but I think South and I's point is both for your gut and the board to give you the right player 6-7 times in a row is a bigger roll of the dice than I'm going to take Todd Gurley because he's everything for the Rams offense.
No,
So
I agree with that.
I know, and I know ultimately you're selling. I'm saying I agree with you in a sense of course it's possible. It's just unlikely that you have to crush every pick because none of your running backs are offensive focal points.
Right. And
Guess what? We're mocking later. And you know what? And I'll even change my stance to some degree. I think this is much easier when you, in my opinion, when you're talking about 8 and 10 team leagues as opposed to 12 and larger.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think you can do this strategy at all if you're in a 12 plus league. If you're in an 8-team league or you're in a 10-team league, I think this can work out perfect for you. Because while everyone's running to grab running backs in the first 2 rounds, you're grabbing the best 2 receivers you can. Probably 2 of the top 3, whoever your two of the top 3 are. And then when everybody else is scrambling to pick up wide receivers and pick up quarterbacks, you're just going much earlier than the 0 running back strategy. You're just taking four running backs and hoping that you land on something good.
I think my final word on it is while we both feel great that you have Antonio Brown and I have Todd Gurley in the first round, while you're hoping Nick Chubb works out, you just said, quote unquote, scrambling. I'm going to be taking receiver 20, which is Alshon Jeffrey or Josh Gordon. Like that's way more of a slam dunk than you hoping Nick Chubb emerges from a 3-headed monster at running back.
If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all be happy.
That's a great way to slam the door on statement number 3. All right. Statement number 4 here, guys. Last season, this kind of surprised me, so I enjoyed this one. Last season, Tom Brady, #Tommy, led the league in passing with 4,577 yards for the eventual runner-up New England Patriots. Had to sneak that one in there. This was the lowest passing yardage total to lead the league since Drew Brees back in 2006. All right. In fact, not only does it not lead the league, that 4,577 wouldn't even have been top 3 since 2009. So I'm going to ask you guys to buy or sell. This year, we're going to get back to the trend of the 2010s and see at least 3 quarterbacks throw for more yards than Tom Brady led the league with just last year.
I'm gonna buy this one. I think last year was kind of an anomaly in terms of injuries and the way things kind of played out. With the resurgence of the running back position, but these guys understand that like their bread is buttered through the air. The game is lending itself to big chunks of yardage through the air. The rules that are in place, and honestly, I think some of these targeting rules that are coming into place are only going to help favor the passing game even more so.
I've been owning you to this point, so I'm going to lay off a little bit here, and I'm going to buy and just totally agree with you. I actually had it written down. This was a total anomaly, mostly due to injuries last year. Look, I don't think anybody here would argue that Wentz and Rodgers, if healthy last year, probably are right around that number or higher. They were, on pace for really good years. So they're likely, given health, to pass it this year, I believe. I know that would be obviously a high number for Wentz because we've never seen that he could do that, but I think he's heading in that direction. You're going to put Kirk Cousins, a guy who routinely does this, on a much better team. Sign me up for that. I'm never going to discount Matt Stafford. Russ is always a candidate to have a really, really good high number year, especially given the amount of turnover that they've had now and how dependent they're likely, at least to start, to be with him. Andrew Luck is coming back. I wouldn't be shocked if Drew Brees was back up there. Brady could do it again. So Big Ben, if he's healthy, I think that this was an anomaly. I think you're going to have a couple guys that are above that number.
Would you guys be surprised to hear that Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck have combined to hit that number twice in their careers?
No,
each has only done it once. Aaron Rodgers' career high is 46-43.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Rodgers is kind of the guy that, like, he always has the touchdown numbers, but he'll throw like 4 touchdowns in the first half of a game, and then they just coast in the second half. Right. And he doesn't have a lot of yards. Honestly, the same thing happened to Carson Wentz last year. He was way ahead in touchdowns, but Brady was ahead of him in yards for most of the year. So I don't even think it would have been a slam dunk that if he played 3 more games that he would have been right there with Brady. So, but I do buy it for the reason of Breeze finished 4th last year, 200 yards behind. Well, he's missing Mark Ingram for the first couple of weeks. So they should at least pass a little bit more than they did last year, which would put him over that hump. Matthew Stafford is always a threat to get there. Phillip Rivers definitely. Ben Roethlisberger, who knows what's going on with the Lev Bell situation. I think he could get there. If the Falcons are smart, Matt Ryan will get back there. And then also I love Kirk Cousins, obviously, within a new high-powered offense to get there. So I'm not saying all those guys do it, but I like at least 3 of them too.
Yeah, I have 3 guys that I think are a lock. If Deal was here, I'd tell him to write it down. I think Kirk surpasses that number. I think Matthew Stafford surpasses that number. And I think Drew Brees is back above that number this year. So I think there's 3 guys definitely that are going to be above that number.
Yeah, I haven't been admitting my buys or sells. I'm going to sell this one, actually. I think the league's running back emergence is getting teams a little bit back to that balance. It's obviously, we're never going back to 1993 where we're going to have multiple 1,500-yard rushers. But I think balance is just more the way of the league right now. If you look at the teams that were winning last year, Philly was balanced. Minnesota was pretty balanced. Jacksonville obviously had to be balanced due to deficiency at quarterback. But, those are 3 of the 4 conference championship teams. And that's how you get winning done. Even the Saints, they went as far as they did, and Drew Brees had one of his lower yardage numbers. So I kind of think this is where we are. I don't think we're ever going back to like 4,000 yards. It's a shocker. We're still going to have 8 to 10 quarterbacks a year hit it. I won't be surprised if 1 or 2 go over. But to say 3, it's going to have to be the right situations where teams are just behind and throwing. So I think Stafford's probably your one that I would agree with most. All right, we're going to take a quick halftime break here to talk about our friends over here at Gorb. You guys that listen to the pod, you've heard it. Those of you guys who are on social media, I'm sure you've seen the hashtag Gorb going around. This is GHORBH, stands for Get Hungry or Be Hungry. And their message is really simple, that whatever you have in life as a goal, you got to get after it, or you're always going to wish that you did. And they're trying to spread that message around as a positive, a ray of light, a little bit of hope. And the way they're doing that is through social media, like we said, the hashtag Gorb going around, any positive word you have. Or you can go to their site and go ahead and spread their word with your apparel, T-shirts, sweatshirts, men, women, kids, all kinds of sizes. If it fits us, it'll fit you. Comfortable stuff, great stuff there at Gorb. And on top of that, the world just needs more positivity. So we encourage you guys to check them out, GHORBH.com. Join us in the revolution of getting people after their dreams so they're never, ever wishing they did it. All right, guys, let's get into our last 4 here. Statement number 5, defense wins championships. Or at least that's what they used to say. Last year, only 6 of the NFL's top 12 defenses from the regular season made the playoffs, while 3 of the playoff teams were actually in the bottom 7 in team defense. On the other side of the ball, 9 of the top 12 offenses made the playoffs. Only the Bills and Titans were outside of the top 20. So buy or sell. This trend is going to continue. Offensive output will continue to be the better indicator of team success in 2018.
I would be shocked if we agree on this one because
you're like an 89-year-old football fan. You just want to see 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
We are very different in what we think it takes.
So do you want me to go first or second?
No, I'm going to go because I'm going to set the bar so high. I hope you made halftime adjustments because I'm smoking you right now.
You're out of your mind right now.
It's bad. All right. lucky for you. Well, never mind. I'm going to sell this. All right. And here's why.
I am shocked.
Because at least on paper, all of the following teams either have a foundation of defense first mentality or have made significant upgrades to their defense this offseason. The Rams, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Saints, the Panthers, the Chargers, the Texans, the Jags, the Bills, and then teams like the Jets and the Ravens, who were, not necessarily playoff teams, but have a foundation of having your key core guys on the defensive side of the football. Certain teams, obviously you got your Lions, your Packers, the Steelers, will always have the firepower, at least in this current time frame. But there is a league-wide emphasis right now on defense. There just is. The way that people are drafting near the top of the draft, people are looking for defensive playmakers. The way that people are signing free agents, they're trying to have an 8-man rotation as pass rushers so that even when you face elite quarterbacks, you could just constantly be getting after them for 60 snaps, 70 snaps a game. So I just think that there's such an emphasis that you're going to see a couple of these teams who are going to get into the playoffs with really, really strong defenses and just kind of like productive offenses.
So the actual saying is offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. And I'm selling this also because I'm going to 100% agree. Listen, here's a simple fact, and I looked it up and I loved it. And I loved it that I went this far. Yes, I understand what you're saying about the number of offensive teams in the top 12. Here's the bottom line. You said wins championships, not makes the playoffs. Your final 4 teams, 3 of them were in the top 4 defenses in the NFL. And your champion was in the top 4 defenses in the NFL. So, yes, offenses will get you to the playoffs. Offenses are flashy and look fun. And I am an offensive guy. But defense still wins championships. When you have 3 of the top 4 defenses in the league as your 3 of your final 4 teams left, that says something to me. It says that defense gets you there. You need a good balance to get you over the top. The Eagles had that. But let's be honest. It came down in that game to who's going to stop the other one first. And it was the Philadelphia Eagles making a defensive play to make that happen. Like that, it's just what it is. So yeah, I know that's very contradictory to the way I would normally come at this, but I'm selling this as well. Defense wins championships.
My brain is going to explode. I cannot believe that just happened.
That's
not
shocking.
Just that you went sell here, but that you're both so clearly wrong.
Wow.
It's insane. The Philadelphia Eagles gave up 613 yards and won because their offense put up 41 points. The reason teams like Philadelphia and Minnesota were so high on defense, in addition to being good, I'm not going to take anything away, especially from the Vikings on defense, their offenses are so efficient and so good that they get the opposition one-dimensional. And then how hard is it to play defense? They're throwing the ball.
To that point, don't you think that...
All due respect to the Eagles' front 7, they're not the best rushing defense in a league. They're the best rushing defense in the league because they face like 12 carries a game. That's it. For me, the way the league is, especially with the emergence of these RPOs, and I know we get sick of hearing it because now all of a sudden every announcer wants to sound smart and they call every play action pass an RPO. But as these run pass options expand and get more prominent, you can't win as a defense. All you need is a smart quarterback and you will get shredded. The league needs efficient, smart offenses. That's who will win every year. Write it down.
So the fact that 3 of the final four teams were in the top 4 defensively in the league doesn't mean anything.
No. Listen, I know what I'm trying to come off strong. I'm not going to scoff at defense. You can't have a terrible defense and win championships. You can't do it. But at the same time, the days of the 2000 Ravens, that's gone.
No, that's gone. That's gone. Like,
that 2000 Ravens is one of the best teams we've ever seen. I think these Eagles would beat them by 20 because the defense is good enough. You're getting shut out. with Trent Dilfer. And the way Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz and eventually Nick Foles can get you in bad positions on defense. Listen, those top four, the Jaguars were a defensive team. I can't take that away from them. But Philly and Minnesota were so good on defense in no small part to how good the offenses were. Especially Philadelphia. I mean, they got teams so early in games one-dimensional that it just killed you. You weren't gaining yards.
I just don't see it like that. You can't. You said it yourself. You can't win the championship without having that balance.
So let me say this:
the better defensive team won the Super Bowl.
I think more than, and this kind of goes to, one team needed to stop and one team got it. I think more than being that stingy, you can't move the ball on us defense. It's an opportunistic thing now. Like the Eagles didn't beat the Patriots because they stopped them on fourth down. The Eagles beat the Patriots because they had a great pass rusher, be versatile enough to move inside, beat a guard quickly, and strip the ball. That's why they won. They had it.
That's what I'm talking. I'm talking about that, not the fourth down play. Like I'm talking about.
Right. But I'm talking.
Their defense made the play first.
Right, and I think that's what we're headed towards. Jacksonville was a great defense. Again, in no small part to just how many big plays they're able to make. They take the ball away. Same thing with the team like the LA Chargers. They take the ball away. Teams with sacks and turnovers, I think, matters more than that. The defense wins championships mentality to me is like, you can't run on us because Ray Nitschke's standing in the middle of the field, and what are you going to do? I just don't think it's as important now to have that big, stout, scary defense. I think it's important now to be fast and opportunistic. But on top of that, I'll be shocked the next time. I mean, I know it just happened in 2015 with the Broncos. The next time a team where the defense is clearly the better side of the ball wins the Super Bowl, I'll be shocked.
Look, this is kind of a cop-out statement. And let me just say this first. Ray Nitschke is no Fletcher Cox, all right? But
wow.
This is kind of a cop-out statement. And I'm obviously joking around there because I love Fletcher. But I don't think that you could be wrong with how you answer this question, because what it ultimately boils down to is that the days of having one unit in the top 5 and one unit in like the bottom 10 and being a champion are probably gone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So you have to have, if your offense is a top 5 offense, you need a top 15 defense. If your defense is top 5, you need a top 10 offense. It's just, you can't have those huge disparities anymore. I think you kind of saw how that ended up working out for Jacksonville, even though they were, right in it basically. But those days for the disparity are gone. So I think what for me puts you over the top, I think we saw for quite a few games, and a lot of this is probably just, like their starting quarterback went down and whatever, but like you saw just like an efficient offense out of the Eagles for a while. Like they didn't blow the doors off of a lot of people until, Minnesota came to town. But like you did see a defense who kind of bowed their back a little bit and said, look, we're going to be the reason why we're not going to lose. We're going to be opportunistic. We're going to carry this thing and give them those opportunities. So, again, you can't be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm basing my argument off of.
I want to throw this one last point out there too before we get off this topic. It's important to note that when we talk about top 10 defenses for our listeners, most of the times we're talking about yardage, total yardage given up. It's even more in the favor of me and South when you actually look at points given up, okay? Because at that point, you have the Vikings, Jaguars, Eagles, and Patriots all in the top 5. So 4 of your final 4 teams all in the top 5 in points against as a defense, okay? And 9 of the 12 playoff teams are in the top 12 in that category. So, like, yes, it's not just the defense in terms of how many yards they give up, but their ability to not allow points on the board.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree because
I think that's
that argument.
I think that's just as important.
That argument that
I think that's just as important.
Almost feeds into Miles's narrative, though. Like, is it because
you got teams one-dimensional,
or you made them one-dimensional because your offense was so prolific? Right. So, like, it's just a circular.
Yeah, but you can't use that argument with the Patriots, who are like 15th in total offense. I mean, total defense, but 5th in points against.
The Patriots are actually 29th in team defense last year.
Sorry, 29th in team defense and 5th in points against. So they're one of the final 2 teams left in the league. So the points against is equally as important as the yardage you give up.
And ultimately, the reason they don't win a championship is because you can't stop Nick Foles. All due respect, it's Nick Foles. You did not get shredded by Aaron Rodgers. You can't stop Nick Foles.
Hall of Foles.
Hall of Foles. All right. Hey, that's a great. You're closing these things out like a boss tonight, South.
I'm telling you, I'm owning everybody.
All right, let's move back to move on to our next topic here. Statement number 6 here. All right, the NFL's leading rusher has been a rookie for 2 consecutive seasons, with Kareem Hunt 1327 last year leading the way, and Zeke Elliott going for 1631 in 2016. You add in Todd Gurley of 2015, South's boy Jeremy Hill in 2014, Fat Cheeseburger Eddie Lacy in 2013, and Deal's homeboy Doug Martin in 2012.
Ooh.
We've actually had one rookie, at least one rookie, finish in the top 9 in rushing 6 consecutive years. We just saw a huge running back class come into the league, at least what we perceive right now to be a huge running back class. In April, led by number 2 pick Saquon Barkley to the running back starved Giants. I want you guys to buy or sell here. I'm going to say there will be at least 2 rookie running backs in the top 10 of rushing at the end of this season. And I'm going to make you give me 2 or 3 very realistic possibilities, especially if you're going to buy.
Well, I'm not going to buy. I'm going to sell. I love this rookie running back class. I don't know.
Who are you and what have you done with Rocco? Like, everything you're saying tonight is contradictory to everything you've said ever before.
I think he's trying to zig from my zag.
That's correct. He's zigging while everyone else is zagging.
I'm zigging while everyone else is zagging. No, I'm selling it because, like, I love Saquon. If you would have said 1, I probably would have bought this. But adding the second one, I think there's too many question marks. I like Ronald Jones. Do I like him enough to take hold of that backfield and put in a top 10 rushing performance this year? I don't know. Nick Chubb, sharing time with Carlos Hyde, and the catches with Duke Johnson. I don't know if he'll get enough touches to be there. Sony Michel, I'll never bet on a Patriots running back to do it. I love Darius Geis, but there's still too many question marks there too. So if you would have said 1, I would have said, yeah, Saquon will wind up in the top 10 this year. I would almost go out and guarantee that. But I don't know that when you add in that second one, if I can guarantee a number 2.
I before South goes, I think you missed 2 of the easiest possibilities, which I'm going to bet South will say.
Listen, what are the roadblocks specifically for Rojo and Darius Geis? Like, who's keeping them off the field in either one of those situations?
All due respect to Samaje Perine, like
all due respect to Samaje Perine and Robert Kelly. Listen, they don't always make the smart decisions down there in Washington.
They rarely make the smart decisions.
So you're going to tell me that you're 100% certain that Darius Geis is going to be the day 1 starter there and that he's going to take off? Like, no, I'm not betting on that because it's the Redskins. Daniel Snyder, they just traded Kirk Cousins. They let Kirk Cousins walk because they traded for Alex Smith. And you're going to tell me this team is the reason that you trust in Darius Geis? Give me a break.
All the more reason. All the more reason. Listen.
Sometimes you say dumb things.
I can't believe how easy this is tonight. It's like taking candy from a baby, a really loud baby.
You're wrong like 14% of the time on this thing.
Listen, I think Barkley, Geis, Jones, Penny, and Freeman are all very serious candidates to be top 10 rushers this year. Barkley, Geis, and Jones are likely all going to get it done. All right, look, Barkley's the guy in New York. You don't take a running back at number 2 with that much talent and not give him every opportunity. You know, Darius Geis in Washington, like, yeah, I get it. The Redskins don't always make the smartest moves, but they've got nobody at the wide receiver position, a tight end who can't stay healthy. Your running backs are hot garbage, and you brought in Mr. Vanilla himself at the quarterback position. So you're going to tell me that he's not going to get a whole ton of opportunities to be the guy who really the offense runs through. I'm not buying that at all. And then Ronald Jones in Tampa, I couldn't even tell you right now who's going to give him a run for it. And you just lost your quarterback for the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, which means Ryan Fitzpatrick is your quarterback, and you trust an offense run by Ryan Fitzpatrick? Stop, Sal.
It's
Come on,
opportunity.
Man.
Opportunity is the name of the game. You cannot You cannot put up yardage if you are not getting the opportunities. The opportunities are going to come, and these are guys who I'll openly admit we're kind of draft nerds. And I don't like that term so much, but like we spend a lot of time invested specifically in the running back position, watching a lot of tape, reading a lot of different reports on these guys, and I know that we've fallen in love with them, but I'm not going to just go back on everything that I have studied on these guys for like the last 6 to 8 months just because of my gut feeling that the Redskins always screw it up or whatever. I can't let the tape doesn't lie.
Yeah, we don't have any tape of him in a Redskins uniform, so scratch that right now. His quarterback is Alex Smith but you just said is no wide receivers, okay? So you have a quarterback that can't throw more than 10 yards down the field with no receivers to throw to and a tight end who can't stay on the field. What makes you think he's not going to see 8 and 9-man boxes? He plays the Philadelphia Eagles twice. They have a very tough schedule, and you're telling me you're guaranteeing that he gets there. That's like the most insane thing I've ever heard, South. Like, that's not logical from your standpoint.
The only way I'd respond to that, and I realize that the pass-catching skill guys are far better for the Chiefs, but you do know Alex Smith's rookie running back last year led the league in rushing, right?
Okay, but you had Travis Kelce, who's arguably –
and Kareem Hunt.
You have Travis Kelce, who's arguably the best
tight end. I gave you that. I said the receiving threats are better.
Not a little bit, way better.
I said way better. Those are my exact words.
Oh, and you know what? I'm going to throw this out there. He also had a head coach in Kansas City who I trust way more from an offensive standpoint than the coach he has in Washington right now. I'm just saying that just to throw that out there.
I can't believe we're glossing over Royce Freeman in Denver. That should be a much improved line with Garrett Bowles back. The skill guys there, you can't fight me on. Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton, Jake Butt's going to be legit coming back.
Yeah, and if I didn't
saw Case Keenum was a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback.
And the last I read on the Broncos is that he's still battling out against Devontae Booker. He's barely been able to see the field.
If anybody thinks Devontae Booker's going to steal that job, then Royce Freeman's a joke. Because Devontae Booker is terrible.
He's not good.
He's terrible.
But that's my point. I read the article yesterday that said Booker and Freeman are battling it out in camp.
But they have nothing else to talk about. It's camp.
Okay, but if Freeman was that much better, why wouldn't they just say Freeman's running away with this job?
Because it's not going to get anybody to stay interested in what they're going to write about for the next 2 months. So I did say Freeman, didn't I? I may have glossed
you did, but it was like you glossed over Penny and Freeman, which I think are two of the stronger possibilities, if for no reason other than they're going to get the carries.
Right. Like
I don't think Penny gets there because I just don't think up front they're good enough to block for him to be a top 10 back. But
we're underestimating this too. Like the yardage totals are not what they were, 15 and 20 years ago to be a top 10 guy anymore.
You don't need 1,200 to get top 10.
You need 75 to 80 yards a game.
Right. Oh, not even that. I mean, you get 950 yards. You're probably a top 10 running back.
Right. So that's why I'm saying like the opportunity is king. Right. Like, yes, you could struggle to run a little bit for the Redskins, but if you average 70 to 75 yards a game, like you're going to be a top 10 overall runner.
Right. Realistically, you need 1,000 yards to be top 10. Because Zeke missed it by 17 yards, but also only played in 10 games. Oh,
All right, so we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. A lot of possibilities out there. I think 3 for 3, we agree with that. It's certainly not only 2 guys that might do it, but we'll see what ends up happening there. Let's move on to statement 7 here. Kind of similar to the division champs one from before. One of the best parts, or at least in my opinion, one of the best parts, I love the parity in the NFL. I mean, even the biggest homer, which I kind of consider myself to be, did not pick the Eagles to win the Super Bowl last year. It just didn't happen. This was seen, though, even more than usual last year. The cliche is half the playoffs are going to turn over every year. You're going to see 6 new teams. Last year, only 4 playoff teams from 2016 made the playoffs again last year. And baffling in the NFC, it was only the Falcons. The Falcons were the only NFC playoff team to come back for the second straight year. So buy or sell here, I'm not even going to make it as crazy as last year was. Let's just say 6. We're going to see 6 new playoff teams in January who were watching last year. And I don't necessarily need you to give me those 6, but I would like you to tell me a team or two that you feel really strongly will do it, and the team or two they're going to replace as they get there.
Well, I'm going to go first because I feel like Rocco still needs to cool off a little bit. I'm going to sell on this one. And even though I just made the argument earlier that there's always teams that we don't see coming, I feel like 6 is a couple too many to not see coming. Look, in the NFC, I feel like we've seen the dominant teams have taken steps to prevent this from happening. In the past, like we've seen, the Falcons and the Cowboys over the last couple of years where they had those really good years, or even the Packers, but then they kind of just stay stagnant. They make, a couple draft acquisitions or whatever, but these are all teams that have done things to ensure that they've gotten better while not hurting the core of their team. So with the Eagles, the Saints, the Vikings, and the Rams in the NFC, I'd be shocked, floored, if those 4 teams were not back in the playoffs. So there's 4 spots gone off the top. I think the Steelers are still, barring like a Big Ben injury, and probably the Pats are still playoff teams. So that leaves 6 spots open still. I only need one more team. I actually like the Chiefs a lot still. I think Pat Mahomes is going to open up some brand new things for them offensively. So they're back in. The teams that I would be shocked if they didn't make their way back in, I guess, would be, the Packers. I think the Raiders will challenge again. I think the Chargers will challenge again. But my overall point is that teams have done too much to continue to get better while not hurting their core, that I don't think it'll be 6 teams.
I think especially from an NFC perspective, I like the 4 division champs, and I'm going to add Atlanta. I actually think Atlanta is the second best roster in the NFC. So, I mean, we look at them last year. They were only a wild card. They were only a 6 seed. Well, they went out to LA and beat up the Rams, and then they were 1 play away from beating the Eagles. I mean, when you talk about, we joke about this Super Bowl hangover being a real thing. Their Super Bowl hangover was 1 play away from getting back to the conference championship.
To their best player.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are really glossing over Atlanta, and that's a mistake. For me, I think Carolina is the only team from the NFC where I could see them missing.
Right.
I mean, obviously things happen, but from a logistical standpoint, I just don't see it with any of the other 5. But on the flip side, for me in the AFC, I won't be, as to use your word, floored. I won't be floored if any of the 6 miss, including Pittsburgh and New England. I think the AFC is very wide open because those dominant teams in Pittsburgh and New England are getting a little older. We don't know. I love Patrick Mahomes. I think I'm probably tied with Deal of his biggest fan in the world. But who knows how that works out? The AFC South is wide open. If Bortles things up again and Mariota's back and Luck is back, that's wide open. And I don't think anybody's going nuts with Buffalo right now. So I don't know if I buy or sell, but I'll just say from an AFC perspective, I think all 6 spots are definitely open.
Well, I will buy, okay, just to be the opposite of South. No, I really do. I had to think about it really hard and say like who I could eliminate and who I could see jumping in that spot. But I think there's a good chance that that's 6, only because of how wide open the AFC is right now. I like Patrick Mahomes too. I like the Chiefs, but do I like them more than I like the Chargers or the Raiders? Not necessarily. The 2 teams that made the playoffs from the AFC South last year, the Jaguars and the Titans, Watson's back, Luck's back. I wouldn't be surprised if those 2 teams finished 3-4 in the division this year.
Right.
So I like the Steelers more than you do, Miles, because I think they're the only lock in the AFC at this point. But, I'm definitely not going to be surprised if Buffalo falls off, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody shocks the world and does beat the Patriots for the division this year. So I'll say that it's definitely possible. If you really want teams eliminated, I'm going to eliminate the Carolina Panthers and replace them with the San Francisco 49ers. And then I'm going to eliminate both. I'm going to eliminate both the AFC teams, the AFC East teams, the Pats and the Bills. I'm going to eliminate both the South teams, and I'm going to eliminate the Chiefs. I'm going to put in the Chargers, Raiders, Jaguars. I'm sorry, Titans. Yeah, jeez, Louise, Texans, Ravens, and Jets.
Wow. Okay. Pretty specific there. We'll see what happens. It's just another one of those things for me. I like this question because it's so hard to look at the playoff teams from, like, even Jacksonville. That defense is so good. It's hard to say, they're going 8-8. I mean, that's a hard thing to do.
Well, we look at everything from last year's eyes. We have no idea what the chemistry is going to be.
Exactly.
So
even those teams, we say the Rams really loaded up. What if it doesn't work? What if it blows up on defense and all the pieces don't work?
I hope it doesn't.
What if Kirk Cousins goes to Minnesota and they tried too hard to prove that he was worth the contract and ignored Dalvin Cook and they win 9 games? What if Wentz isn't right and the Eagles fall off? I mean, anything can happen. It's just difficult to sit here and predict. 6 of the teams I just watched play in January are going to fall off. That's a hard thing to do.
See, and that was my hard thing too. Is the Minnesota thing. Like, if Rodgers is playing and he's healthy, that division is up for grabs. I don't care how good the Vikings are. Like, you can't tell me that Aaron Rodgers can't make them go 12-4.
And I think that's good. That's what I mean? Exactly. That's what you're saying with Luck and Watson too.
Yeah, exactly. So like with quarterbacks coming back and the turnover in the AFC, I think it's very possible we get six new teams.
All right, guys, let's move on to our last statement here, kind of a straightforward one. The NFL has had a repeat champion only 8 times ever, 52 Super Bowls. Only 8 of them have made a repeat champion. The 2004 Patriots are the only one in the last 20 years. So straightforward, buy or sell. The 2018 Eagles will be repeat Super Bowl champions come February 3rd, 2019.
I know he's not here with us tonight, but I'm going to quote Ryan Deal. Give me 31-1 odds every time. There you go, Deal. You were here even though you weren't. Yeah, honestly, I love the Eagles, not as much as you guys do. I think they are absolutely one of the top 2 or 3 favorites to win the Super Bowl. But if you got to give me, if I can have the Eagles or the field, I'm going to take the field.
Give me 2 or 3 teams you have a gut that are most popular to knock them off, most likely.
Obviously, we talk about it all the time. The Rams seem to be retooling and tooling up to do that. I really like what they did in their secondary. They went out and got 2. They lost Jermaine Johnson and solved that by getting 2 absolute beast corners. One old and one young. And we'll see how that plays out. But they seem to be tooling up in order to stop exactly what the Eagles are doing. You know what I mean? So there's one team I like. Obviously, I still like the Saints to be able to take them in a 1-game winner-take-all scenario, especially if we're talking about in the playoffs and that Mark Ingram's back and, if it's the same Saints team from last year with the added additions of, their draft picks. And on the AFC side of the ball, I'm still scared of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that offense is so high, so potent that they can really do some special things.
But tell me about the defense, because that's what wins championships, right?
Ooh.
All right. So the defense, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense did finish 7th in the league last year in total yards. So, good God, 7th. They might as well be 27th. So dumb. It got me off track. And honestly, the AFC is not the strong suit right now. I think it's all about the NFC in general. I don't like a lot of the AFC teams to be able to go head to head with one of these NFC powerhouses. We're just the way it is right now. We went through a long period of time where it was Peyton and Tom and Ben and then whoever the NFC threw at them. And I think now we're kind of heading towards the reverse of that. It's going to be Carson and Kurt and Aaron and Goff and whoever the AFC can throw at them. So,
all right. Why, our viewers would be surprised to hear at this point that I'm going to disagree with you. All right. Why at this point would I stop owning you when I could just put the icing on the cake here? All right. Look, yes, the NFC is not the conference to try and do this in this year, at least on paper. All right. But you know what we don't have to worry about on paper? The chemistry of this team, the approach that the front office has in building this team, putting the right leaders in the right spots at the right time, taking the right approach, the coaching staff, a little bit of turnover, yes, but the people that really matter when it comes to making the decisions, calling the plays, putting guys into the positions they need to be are still in place. You know, none of that we have to worry about on paper. Did this roster decision that the Rams made work out? Does Kirk Cousins to the Vikings work out? We know what we have internally with the Eagles, and that's a huge factor for me and why I'm buying this. They've reloaded and they've improved with little to no effect to the core of this team. All right. The key guys are still the key guys. You really don't have yourself in a bad situation. Your franchise quarterback is coming back off of a bad injury. And for someone who likes to talk about the reports in, late June, by all accounts, you should be glad to hear that he's looking fantastic. He's looking spry, like a spring chicken out there. So, yes, the underdog label no longer matters. But it doesn't matter because this team is built with the idea of the long term in mind. They're already talking about how we understand we have to let go of last year. We know there's a target on our back. We have to get better every single day. And I, for one, maybe because I'm a person who is constantly following it, but I'm buying the approach that they're taking. I really do believe that this team is built for long-term success, and barring some kind of catastrophic injury, I think they're right back there again. I think they repeat.
Ultimately, I would sell this, but I think, if for no other reason than history tells me it's near impossible to do this, but I think the one thing the Eagles do have going for them is you have key pieces everywhere. Carson Wentz, your quarterback, probably last year's MVP. Jason Peters, Hall of Fame tackle. Darren Sproles, one of the most dangerous weapons in space we've ever seen. Jordan Hicks, the middle linebacker on the team. Those guys got rings, but they still have that chip on their shoulder that they didn't get the ring. We watched Nick Foles get MVP. So did Carson Wentz. We watched Big V, Halapoulivaati Vaitai, block well on the left side. So did Jason Peters. Corey Clement had 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Darren Sproles saw that. So ultimately, you have critical players that aren't resting on the laurels of the Super Bowl championship because I don't think they feel that they were a part of it. So that's the one thing I'm really interested to see, because we didn't see that with New England or Seattle or these recent champions who didn't repeat. We didn't see critical parts of the team get the ring because they were on the roster. They got it because they won it, and it's hard to imagine what would have happened if Tom Brady had missed the Super Bowl and Brian Hoyer had won it or Jimmy Garoppolo had won it. What would he have been like the next year? We saw what happened when he tore his ACL and came back the next year. Yep.
50
guy goes nuts. So ultimately, I'm going to sell because I think there's too much talent in the NFC for me to just say they're repeating. Will I be shocked if they do it? Not really. I think we talk about how much the NFC is a beast. Well, they're a huge part of why the NFC is a beast. They didn't luck into this. So I think ultimately
so
we'll see.
My last question for the night then is, if we're giving out like 7 points for every category, this is a 56-0 stomp out for me, right?
Absolutely not. I think I'm going to deduct points for how much you've been tooting your own horn on average at best arguments.
Yeah,
listen. I felt like I came with strong energy. We had low energy Jeb Bush over there in New York.
Low energy. South, every day of the week I have more energy than you. Every single day. We agreed on like 3 categories, and the other ones, your arguments were crap anyway. So congratulations.
Right. I'm not going to let this further derail. We're already over an hour here. We're losing people on YouTube's argument. Ultimately, this was not a competition. I am really happy with the discussion that it brought up, knowing each of you is right or wrong on multiple one of these. Tried to keep my opinions mostly to myself as the host, but I agree with some, disagree with most of what was said here tonight. But hey, we're the Football Goons, and that's what you get out of us. especially when Deal's not here to mellow everybody else out with his I don't hate everything persona. So I hope you guys enjoyed the listen. That's going to be it for this week's edition of the show. Be sure to keep up with us, facebook.com/footballgoons. We are at Football Goons on the Twitter and our YouTube channel. Subscribe and comment to our videos so you can keep up with all of our content as it gets released every Sunday night. Make sure you're keeping locked into footballgoons.com all off season. July 1st is right around the corner where you'll see our big fantasy rankings re-release, as we haven't released since May 1st. And then they'll be updated on a weekly basis. So keep checking in with us. We do all of our rankings on half PPR to not kind of sell anybody out. If you're a PPR player, you can still use them. A standard player, you can still use them. And if you do things the right way with half PPR, you can definitely use them. As if I can let my own opinions shine through. So we won't be taking any time off there. The pods will be hitting fantasy content hard and heavy here as we turn into July, and guys, excitedly enough, approach fantasy draft season. It's going to be a great time. We appreciate your time. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We're looking forward to getting Deal back next week. So hopefully you tune in with us next Sunday night as we broach a new topic. Thanks again for your time, and we will catch you next time.